Hi, my name is Eugene. I'm the head of client success, and today we're going to go through the terms used to measure the success of smart promo campaigns, because I know it can be a bit confusing. Okay, so first we have the list of devices who have received an impression for the smart promo campaign. The total number of devices is actually the reach. The impressions refer to how many impressions they got, so the total number of downloads that all of those devices caused. Of the devices that downloaded the podcast ad, a certain number of them will go on afterwards to download the podcast being promoted. The total number of those devices is what we refer to as the converted devices. It'll show up under your dashboard as conversions. So that's what converted devices refers to. The total number of downloads that this group of devices causes is what is referred to by the downloads term in your dashboard. So this group of devices have both downloaded the podcast ad and they have downloaded the podcast being promoted. And that's how you get into here. The limitation with these two terms is that if I am someone who has already subscribed or listened to the podcast being promoted, and then I get an ad for the podcast promoted, and then I download a new episode of the podcast being promoted, I will show up in this list, even though I'm not exactly the person who a smart promo is meant to reach out to. You want to reach people who have not listened to the podcast being promoted before. That's the point of a smart promo. It's to advertise a podcast. So for that purpose, we have three terms that we're going to go into: new converted devices, new device downloads, and new subscribers. So once again, we go back to our list of devices who have downloaded the podcast ad. A certain number of those devices will not have downloaded the podcast being promoted in the past 60 days. Of that smaller group of devices, there will be an even smaller group that have downloaded the podcast ad and who have downloaded the podcast being promoted. That small group of devices is what we call the new converted devices on Podscribe. So the new converted devices are those who have downloaded the podcast ad and they've downloaded the podcast being promoted, but they have not listened to the podcast being promoted in the past 60 days. The total number of downloads that this group of people cause is what we refer to as the new device downloads. And so, there might be 100 devices in here and they all cause 100 downloads. That's one possibility. You might also get really big fanatics who, there might be 5 people in here who download every single episode of the podcast. And then that would be, 100 downloads, but 5 converted devices. That's possible as well. To measure this, we have something called new subscribers. And a new subscriber is someone who has downloaded the podcast ad, they've downloaded the podcast being promoted, and they've also downloaded 3 or more episodes of the podcast being promoted. And that's how we measure if someone is a subscriber or not. Chances are that if you've downloaded 3 or more episodes, that you're going to be a subscriber. And so that's what new subscribers means. That's what new converted devices means. New device downloads, converted devices or conversions, and downloads. So I hope that was helpful. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.